Hello and welcome back to the live stream. Today I'm explicitly going to try to work out and work on the middle school solo for this year's the North Carolina State All-District All-State Middle School Solo, which is Audition Solo 1D if you're on the website. So that's all we're going to do today. And I'm going to work on it from scratch. I've never looked at it before, and I want to walk you through the process so that you can learn it yourself, right? Now, I don't think that there's anything really tricky in this solo. Some of them have little tricks, and this one is more straightforward than the most, but you want to be paying attention to all the different details, right? So let's get started. How do you start learning a new piece of music completely from scratch? Well, there's a lot of ways you could do it. You could listen to recordings if there are some, and there are sort of mechanical recordings of these, and of course we're going to play it today. But there's not a recording of every piece, and so I think it's a nice idea to start by singing it and doing the fingerings, because that way I know what it sounds like already, and if I don't know what something sounds like, I can work it out. So in other words, if there's a rhythm or maybe I'm getting the accidental wrong or something like that, then I can fix that before I've ever played a note on the trumpet. But I do like, I'm going to turn this light off, excuse me. I do like to get the first pitch kind of like figured out, and maybe even a couple. And I sometimes will tell my students it's okay to cheat a little bit here, right? Because there is no cheating in music. Anything that you do that helps you get to the result that you want is a good thing, right? So if let's say, that's my first note, right? So I'm going to sing and I'm going to do the fingerings. And if you'd like to follow along, right, you can download this for free. And I have it printed out, but I also have it right here. And so we can look at it together. But for now, we're going to sing it right here. So, let's go a little bit slower to start as well, right? I don't want to be guessing at things because I'm going a little too fast. We have the real tempo right here, which is pretty fast, but let's go this tempo for now. Dum, dum, dum. So you can tell the first phrase here, I'm not a very good singer, but that's enough to get the pitches in my ear. Now let's see if we can do that with the fingerings. Da, da, so I don't know. I was a little sharp by the end, right? But that's okay. Just singing it and doing the fingerings, getting the right contour of the line, that's going to help me a whole lot. And then I can go on. Da, da, and there's a little detail already, right? A little bit of a diminuendo. So let's now try to play that much at about that tempo, right? Here we go. Okay, good. So we got our diminuendo. We got a little vibrato on one note, right? And one of the things you want to build in right from the get-go is the musicality. What are you going to do with this musically? Where are your arrival points, right? So in other words, I can sort of look and see at the end of the phrase, usually the slur or the phrase mark points to the note that I want to kind of land on musically, right? And that doesn't always mean louder. In this last case, right? Da, 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 da. It's a nice sort of resolution that comes away, right? So I want to start practicing those things right away. That way, when I go faster, when I'm playing through the whole thing, all that stuff is on autopilot. So now we've glossed over a couple of things that we might want to check out. So if you accidentally played F naturals when you were either singing it or playing it just now, well, then go ahead and mark them in. They're in the key signature, right? This is in G major, which is 1 sharp, F sharp. And I would just go ahead and mark every single F sharp. So let's look at it together, right? And right away here, I've got this this F here, right? I don't know if that's coming through. Let's take a look. Yeah, that F there. And I don't like circling things. I only just circled it so that you would see it. But I need to find a way to put a mark on this. And so if you are doing this on an iPad or something, great, then you can use colors. I'm going to pretend like all I have is a pencil just in case that's, well, that is the case for me on my sheet music. But, and there's not a lot of room to write a sharp here, so a lot of times what we'll do is we'll write it below the note. Let's see if I can do this with my mouse. Oh, that's a big sharp, but, oh, and it wants me to, yeah, that's close enough, right? So you can sort of see, oh, that's a sharp there. And I might go through and mark every single sharp, F sharp, if I think I'm gonna make a mistake, right? There's no reason not to mark things in your music because it keeps you from making mistakes in the future, and that's just less work, right? So, okay, let's get back to the piece, and let's see. So, now we also didn't talk about that it's in 3/4. If you've never played in 3/4 before, well, and I'm sure everybody has, but in case you haven't, it just means that there's 3 beats to the measure instead of 4, but the quarter note still gets the beat. And something to note about 3/4 is that the most important beats are kind of the first beat and the third beat. And that's because the third beat tends to go over the bar line into the first beat of the next measure. So we get this kind of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, right? We get that kind of sensation as we go. Now that isn't always going to be the case in this piece because they're trying to mess with you a little bit, right? There are a little bit of tricky spots here. But we can always try to remind ourselves. And if you get lost, let's say because there's a rest in a funny place, which is coming up, well then just mark the beats above the bar like this, right? Like I'll show you a spot that I'm going to need to mark later, and that is down here. Oh, I'm probably blocking it with my big head. Okay, let's move it down a little bit. Yeah, see this bar number 27? This one looks funny to me, so right away I'm going to mark it. That's beat 1. That, take that away. This is beat 2 here, right? And this is and then there's a little beat in between, and this is on an and. And then I'm going to mark this downbeat so I know. And then this way, I can count that. I can go 1, 2, and 1, right? That's just going to help me figure it out. And so I would mark every beat if you get confused. Maybe it's just above there. This rest might be getting you, right? Or you're rushing to get to these eighth notes. Just mark the beats like this so that you see them coming and you count them, right? Okay, so anyway, like I said, enough of that. Let's look at the next spot. So this next thing is going to be, we just played right? Dum, rest, rest, dum, dum, da dee, da. Right? So make sure you rest enough times. Again, I would go ahead and mark this rest and probably these 2 beats, so I count them both, right? 1 and 2 there. I make that one smaller because there's no event on it. And then I'm going to mark this beat as well, right? So that I know those come on the beat, but not until the second one. And if you'd rather mark things like 1 and 2s in here, that's fine too. I just grew up marking just slashes because generally I can count the number. I keep the meter in my head, but I need to make sure the beats are where they need to be. Okay, so let's try this out. And we also want to pay attention to the dynamics here because piano, right, and forte. And then after we do that, we're just going to kind of move right along, singing and then playing, right? And we haven't gotten it up to tempo yet. Don't worry, we'll get there. But hey, we've only been working at this about 10 minutes, and we've already done a lot with it, right? We've made sure that all of our F sharps are written in if we need that. We've looked at a couple of spots that we think might be problems in the future. And so now we're kind of ready to just try to sing it and then try to play it. So I'm going to try to sing it, and then I'm going to try to play it, and let's see how far we can get before my voice gets confused, or my ear, in other words, right? And we're going to do the fingerings as well. So, da, let's see, so, da, 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 dum, da, thump, thump, da, thump, da, 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 da. So we got it, right? We seem to be on key. Now I could have gotten off and back on, but I'm pretty sure I got it all. And one thing we want to add to this is this low D. Oops, I didn't switch you with me. This low D right here, right? That low D, we're going to need to pull our slides out for that note, right? We didn't talk about this at the beginning, and we should have, but anytime you have that low D, right, it's also back here, right? Anytime you have that low D, you're going to pull out your third slide, right? So this slide here, or your first slide, or both a little bit. And you might say, well, how do I know how much to pull it? Well, get your tuner, right? Here's my tuner. It's an old style tuner, right? And I'll let it be in the background so you can sort of see. And I'm just going to play, let's say a C, right? I'm a little sharp on my C already, so I might need to pull out a little bit, or just loosen up here. Right, so I just let it be sharp. I let it be wherever my lip wanted to put it, and then I kept pulling these out until I found the right spot. I know you can't see the tuner very well, but you understand. You can do it on your own. Just make sure that you memorize that spot, and then your fingers go right to it. Because the fingering for D, you might say, is 1 and 3, but it's not just 1 and 3. It's 1 and 3 and pulling your slides the exact right amount. Okay, so we always want to do that. The D in the staff is a flat note. So this is actually a really hard spot where dum, da, 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 this is a flat note, and then da, if I don't pull it out, it's really sharp. So that's going to be something that the judges are always listening for. Is that octave really pure, right? And you can just place it. Just listen, use your ear. That's the best tool, right? So, all right, we sang it. Now let's see if we can play it. So now there's a couple of things in there we can talk about. The first one is, how do you make these nice light lifted notes? And a lot of people will say, well, they're short, so you just cut them off with the tongue. Or, well, you play your tongue real hard and then you start breathing in. I don't like either of those ways personally, right? I want to release them into the air. So what I would ask you to do is do that very slowly first, right? So in other words, we're just going to do a taper, right? Get softer and softer and softer until all of a sudden it just won't, I can't keep it going anymore, right? And I want to pay attention to how that works because the air is not going to stop, right? I'm going to keep blowing, but the note will stop. And then I'm going to do that again, a little bit faster. And then I'm going to do it again and again and again, faster and faster and faster. In other words, the taper gets shorter until I've got something where I'm controlling the note stopping, but not the air stopping, right? So let me show you that. So you can hear, hopefully, I don't know if it comes across on the camera, but you can hear the air happening after the note dissipates, and that keeps my support engaged, and it's also a nicer sound. So that's the first thing, is how to play those short notes really nice and lifted. And again, going forward, it goes da, bum, ba, dee, da, right? It's not da, da, ba, dee, da, right? So keeping the musical idea. Then, okay, we've got forte, we already did that. We played the low D, we pulled out for that, so we've got all that. And then we've got a triplet, and this is really important. You want to fill up that entire beat with all three notes evenly, right? So if I'm just singing, da, 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 I don't want da, 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 right, where you rush them, or dum, 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 well, it's too late, right? So just practice. And in fact, that's how we're going to do it. When we get to that spot in your head, you want to be subdividing, which means sort of thinking about the division of the beats, even though you're not playing it, right? And you're going to play that G. Da, 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 right? So in your head, you're going to subdivide that G into 6 notes, into 2 triplets, right? And that way you'll place the triplet just exactly right. So let me demonstrate that, and then I'll play it the right way again. Whew, I almost didn't make it with my hand there, but I was trying to tap my head in the triplets, right? Dum, bum, 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 bum. Okay, so great. Let's move on, and let's see. Da, 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 da. Remember those F sharps. Da, 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 da. Oh, now we have a rest. See, this is a perfect example where I don't want that rest to be there in my head, but it is there whether I like it or not. So I'm going to look at that right away, right? Here we are. Oh, and I marked it here, but it's not marked on my paper copy. So let me fix that by marking it in my paper copy with this pencil. And I'm going to mark the B as well so that I count that its full value. So da 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 off. Da dum dum da 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 dum 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 da 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 dum dum dum. Okay, so that's all the notes that up until the first and second endings. There's 2 different endings on these, right? There's an A ending that they do for all district, and then there's a B ending that they do for all state. Although I believe either one could be called at either audition. But so we'll tackle those next. But let's try to play that much and see what we get. Now we've got some low Ds that we need to pull out for. We've got plenty of F sharps. This time we're sort of in the key of E minor, which don't worry about that too much. It's just the relative minor of G, and so it has the same key signature. But as you'll see later, we're going to get one little G sharp in there, and actually I guess that's probably A minor by then. But anyway, there are some other notes, but we're going to arrive on these E's instead of on these G's, right, or D's. And so that'll change the way that we want to play musically. All right, let's try it. Now, if that feels unfinished to you, that's because, yeah, your musical ear is picking up on the fact that we're going back to G major, and that D is the 5 chord of G major. It wants to pull back to thum, thum, right? That's what you're hearing in your ear, and that's exactly where we're going. So, now, dum, 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 bum, ba, dum, bum, bum, ba, bum, 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 ba, dum, bum, bum, ba. And there's G sharps there. And if you're thinking right now, I don't know if I know the fingering for G sharp, just stop what you're doing, stop this video, go look it up in your in maybe a scale sheet or maybe a fingering chart, maybe at the beginning of your book. And if you don't want to do that and you want me to tell you the answer, then it's 2 and 3, right? But just mark that in, mark it right now, because it's only going to help you get that right every time. And then there will come a day when you don't need to mark that in because, well, it's silly. You've marked it in 1,000 times and you always mark it in and you know what it is, right? But until then, mark it in. That's what I do all the time. I mark in everything that I need. And then someday down the line, I go, I don't need that marked in because my brain automatically knows that answer, right? Okay, but it's because I marked it in so many times. So go ahead and mark those G sharps if you need to. And go ahead and look ahead to the B ending. It has a G sharp in there as well, right? But okay, let's play the A ending. And again, what are we doing? We're going forward. I didn't sing the last 3 bars. Thumb, 1, thumb, thumb, bum, bum, da, bum, ba. So we want to make sure we really arrive on the last note, but we've got another one of those octaves, this time with a space in between. And so we want to keep the energy going through there, right? All right, let's try to play it. And make sure you hold that last note full value, but no more, right? That way the judges know that your time is still going through the last note. So this would be a good time. We've played through one ending. Now we need to speed it up. We also need to learn the second ending, the B ending, right? And so we will do that. We'll learn the B ending, then we'll play through, and we'll play the B ending when we play it through, and we'll play it faster, right? Because it's still not, this is the tempo. That's pretty fast. Is that really the tempo? Well, yeah, it really is. 116, right? So let's talk about some things that we need to do overall. Well, we said contrast, right? And I'm not always doing a great job of contrast right now because I'm only playing little sections, so it's kind of hard to hear whether this is softer or louder than the last section if I don't play them right next to each other. So you need to practice those transitions. Now, there's another thing I want to talk about, which is the 3 T's, I call it, right? And this is what, when you're in a competition, whether it's an audition for getting into a group like this, or audition for college, which hopefully you'll all be doing soon, or it's a competition like the National Trumpet Competition where you're pitting different people against each other for prizes. There's always going to be some things that the judges are listening for. So what are those things, right? Well, I call it the 3 T's. Time, so that we can keep a steady beat and that we play the correct rhythms over that beat. Tone, that's just how nice your sound is, and that's really one of the biggest ones, right? If you sound bad, nobody really wants to listen to you, even if you have good time and other things, right? So make sure that's really your priority. Get a good warm-up, make sure you have good fundamentals. I have this whole channel is all about that, so go look up some of those if you need to. But it's okay, we have time, tone, intonation, right? Which we talked about with making sure that you pull out for the right notes, but it's not just that, it's also the open notes. Are you in tune with yourself when you play different notes? Check a tuner. But more than that, use your ear. Make sure that you feel like, yeah, that sounds like it belongs together, right? So time, tone, intonation, style, right? Which this is allegretto grazioso. So look up that word. I'm not going to give you that one. You're going to have to look that up, but it's just Italian. You can look that up with Google Translate, or you can use a musical dictionary. But it is a tempo, but it also comes with a certain kind of, well, style to it, right? And style includes another T, which is articulation, right? That we have the exact right length of note all the time, the right shape of the note. So articulation isn't just the beginning, it's the whole shape, right? And then finally, the last T is musicality, right? And that is, we've already covered how we get to the arrivals of the phrases, right? So let's try to incorporate all 3, 4, 5 T's, right? And make sure we have great time, tone, intonation, style, and musicality, and that we can do that at the right tempo, right? Which I guess is a sixth T, okay? So here we go. We said we'd learn the B ending, so let's do that real quickly. And again, I'm learning these always by singing. Why? Because that's the easiest way for me to know that I've got it. If you feel like you can't sing, that's what you want to work on. It's going to be the fastest route, even though it feels the slowest. Oh, I wish I could just play this. Well, that's okay. Play every note if you need to, and just sing every pair of notes. Just get started that way, and you'll get pretty good at it pretty fast. I resisted singing for many years, and it took me a long time to learn pieces. Now I can learn them, well, in, I guess, a half an hour, right? So, da-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum. Oh, I'm thinking in four. Okay, that's a problem, right? So 1, 2, 3. Da 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 dum 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 da da dum dum da 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 off. Right? That's the B ending. All right, so now let's see. Maybe I don't want to go all the way to 116. Well, let's see if we can do it, right? Sometimes, rather than try to be super safe about it, sometimes it's good to just go for it. Let's see if I can do it. So I want to memorize that tempo. So I want to think about the piece in that tempo. And this is what I'm going to do. Once I learn it, I'm just going to sing it to myself in my head all day, every day, all the time, in the right tempo. And then when I get my trumpet out and actually practice it, I'm going to just practice the hard parts, and then I'm going to run it. That way I'm getting really good runs where I don't go back for notes that I missed or anything like that. I'm doing performances. I'm getting comfortable doing that, right? So that's the next step. So that's what we're going to try here. I'm going to try to do a performance. Even though I've never played it at this tempo, I'm just going to imagine it. We've put all the work in that we need to, hopefully. And even if it's not perfect, that's okay. You'll forgive me, right? Just like the judges will forgive you if it's musical and if it sounds good, right? A missed note doesn't really mean that much as long as the rest of it's really, really great. But if it's kind of okay sound and it's kind of okay time and it's kind of okay intonation, they're looking for reasons to, mark you down. So then a missed note really does mean a lot because, well, it was all just kind of average, right? So you want them rooting for you, and that's why the tone and time are so important, right? So, da 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 da, right? That's da 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 da. I was rushing a little bit. Okay, here we go. We're going to try, and I'm going to try the B ending if I can skip to it for the right place. It's written sort of awkwardly on the page, but here we go. So not altogether a flawless run. I think I slowed down. Yep, I slowed down a little bit. But that's what I'm going to work on next, right? Is I'm going to make sure that I'm right in time. I'll practice with the metronome on, right? That's a good strategy. You can try to practice with the metronome on the ands. That's really hard. But I want a little more accuracy. My Ds, I was trying to make sure they were sharp enough, and sometimes I clipped them a little bit, right? So even little things like that you can work on. But anyway, I hope that this has been informative to you. I don't want to make it a huge, long video, so, and now you've heard at least one run through at some quality level anyway, of this piece, the way that I would interpret it, and so hopefully that will help you learn it. Again, I know a lot of people will spend all semester trying to learn this piece. It only takes 30 minutes to do if you do every step carefully, right? And it might take you longer to do each step, and then in which case it won't take you just 30 minutes, but take the steps anyway, right? Take them slowly, because that really is the fastest way to have a really confident, really musical, really beautiful solo prepared, and then you'll be confident about it, and that's huge in the room. If you want to see the scales portion of the auditions, I will put a link in the description of this to a video I did last year where I go through all the scales, middle school and high school. And I also do last year's middle school solo on that video. But the high school and other high school solos haven't changed from last year, so they're on there. If you're looking for this year's high school solos, they'll be in that same video as well in the description. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I'll see you next time.